Okay, and we're fortunate today to have our very own Sara Star giving our demo today. And a little girl. I'm not sure what age that was, but pretty young. So many, many years. She has tried many different materials and styles. In just this April, Sara graduated from a one-year accelerated art program. She went to the Milan Art Institute, which is based in Florida, with both online and in-person classes. Today, Sara is sharing some of the mixed media techniques she learned with her class.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to be teaching about mixed media today, and this is an example of a mixed media piece where I've taken it all the way to the end of the acrylic stage, and then I will continue from here with some glazes with oil paint. And this example includes what we'll do here today, which is the background. And I'm not going to do a full painting demonstration. All of you know how to paint, and so I'll show all the way up to transferring the subject onto the canvas. And this series is inspired by you. So many members of the Art Guild have been so incredibly generous with giving me used, old canvases from the corners of their garage and basement. Art supplies for hobbies. They decided, I'm going to do pastels and not acrylics, or I'm going to do watercolor and not oils. And they've given me so many supplies, and those are included in these paintings. And so this whole series was inspired by you. You can do anything from these sections I'm going to show you in any order, as long as you're in acrylics. I'm just showing you a order that you could do. I don't, like you could get. I could even still come back onto this one and do more of any of the steps because I haven't moved to oils yet. Just a note: mixed media and archival practices are not completely compatible. If you are interested in archivalness, that's a whole other area which I won't be covering today. Many mixed media artists value the ephemeral quality of art and the fact that some things may change over time. And if anyone is, inspired at this moment to quiet or silence their cell phones. Collage came from, I'm skipping ahead. So I'm going to show you first how I get started. I don't draw the entire picture on yet because I want to stay free and inspired. But I do want to know roughly where things are going to be so I don't cover up her face, let's say, with, cover up her face with collage, So I just start here and I just kind of block in ugly. Not intended to be accurate. I just block in where she is, so that I'm not as likely to cover up something important. And
what are you using to
this is a white chalk or Conte. On a dark canvas, I would use charcoal like this, or or just anything. It's going to get covered up. This is just so I'm not gonna go, oops, why did I put a giant piece of collage right where her eyeball's going? Jeez, that's not helpful for mixed media, so, and this is not perfect. I'll probably find that she's over too far one way or another, but it's not gonna matter.
Sarah, step up in front a little bit.
Yes.
Everyone can just see what you're talking
So
about.
this is real ugly. And then I'm spray fixing it. This is a special spray fix that is non-aerosol. It's made with milk protein. It's from the brand Spectra Fix.
Oh.
And it's made with casein, which is just a milk protein. And you just want to spray a light mist on. So that is, I found this photo on a photo sharing website called Pexels, P-E-X-E-L. Don't remember if it's plural or not. But, so that's that stage. I will set this aside to dry. So then this is already got it blocked on. I use red Conte this time. I'm just gonna. It's a lot bigger, so he can be on here.
Is that on just a regular tripod?
This is a tripod with a very expensive plein air, Sienna plein air. But what the advantage of this one compared to my other ones is I can do this. That's the advantage for mixed media with you guys today. Is that's otherwise I would have just brought a regular, more accessible. So here's an example of a fox. This is my inspiration for this. You can see how I blocked him in. I have a collection of collage papers. Now I just want to tell you, collage comes from the Surrealist and the Dadaist movements. Has anyone know of Salvador Dali?
Yes.
And
George's.
why am I blanking? Jean. Anyways, he's not necessarily one of the collage artists, but that free spirit, that a little bit of chaos, and so be playful with your collage, you know. So I've got here some of my signature symbols I like to use over and over again. I've got mushrooms. I've got some roses. I really like to use, you know, you have your own symbols that mean something to you. So I've got some, and I've got a color story planned. This is the most important part, I think, for all of these, is that you already know when you start what colors you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use a semi-complementary palette of a kind of a orangish red and greens. And so that's going to keep me from going off the rails. Because it's very easy to, you know, lose track of what colors you're using. So I've got like this is from a plant catalog. I think, you know, you can get on lists for plant catalogs. And then you've got all kinds of papers. So I also always really like to put example of whatever I'm painting kind of buried in a small version. This is something that Shirley gave me when she was having us make ornaments. So I mean, you're going to get scraps of paper with things on them, and instead of throwing them out, you can use them for collage. There's a little tiny box from an ornament pattern that Shirley gave us in her workshop in the winter time. So that's kind of an orange. I got a sticker and a couple other. I like to repeat the foxes. This one's in honor of Larry Fox, our vice president. I got a fox sticker. I kind of tore some of the sticker backing off by separating it. And this was some packaging that came, and it has a little fox. Oh, well, I tore the fox. Well, I could still use him by gluing it back together, but that's some rehab I'll have to do later. But no big deal. So I think I've got a few pieces here now. Obviously, I do a lot more than what I'm just gonna do. Oh, she's got a sparkly red dress.
Like how many, is there like I know you're not gonna say a percentage, but you just like to have collage all over? What do you?
You know, it's that is something where I've been trying to see where I can push the limits on how much collage I can get away with without people thinking it looks like I cheated, you know? And so I haven't quite found that line yet, but so far everyone likes a lot of collage.
Oh, absolutely.
So they don't, you know, I haven't gotten anyone going, oh, did you just use a lot of collage there? They're all like, oh, what's that? So I'm discovering the limits of this. Now I know this part seems, I could have prepped all this But I thought you might like to actually see how I think through it, you know. And this is the longest part. So usually I would actually go to the typewriter and type up some kind of phrase, inspirational phrase. But my friend gave me this, so these are already typewriter phrases. And so it's a bunch of typewriter phrases in a pad. I don't know where she got it. It says ideology, idea-ology.
Yes, Jim Holtz, they have those.
Jim Holtz, yeah. Oh, they're at Michael's, great.
What a
So
perfect gift for you, Sarah.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
live, create, tell the story. And yeah, usually I try to separate off some of this sticker with my fingernail, but today I'm just gonna put it on there. So then you're gonna wonder, how's she gonna get all this stuff on there? I'm using a gloss heavy gel, or it's just a heavy gel. It can be gloss, it can be semi-gloss, satin, or matte, but it's a heavy gel. You can use any brand. This one's Liquitex, and I believe Carl gave me this. So I'm using supply, again, like I said, you guys inspire me, and so a lot of these are from you. And I start putting thick, this will dry clear. I'm starting to put thick applications of this. Sometimes there's little dry bits, and you probably don't want those in there. But, they just create some texture, so no real harm done. And I'm going to put a lot on here because I don't actually know where I'm going to stick the collage down this, And usually I would just do one area at a time, but we're trying to speed things along. Usually I just do this area and lay the collage. But, we're trying to speed things along here, so I'm just going to put a lot of this glue down. It does dry pretty fast, so you're not going to want to actually do what I'm doing here. You're not going to want to cover the whole thing like this when you're actually doing it. So we'll start putting in some, when you have these kind of harsh edges, those can kind of ruin the illusion, so I try to tear them off and, and also just maybe place them near the corner so that see, maybe this guy kind of nestled in beside him.
So do you always feather the edges so that they lay smooth?
Yeah, I try to feather the edges so that when I paint, it won't be a harsh line. The texture won't. Is that the right word?
On your painting on the left, when I first saw it, I thought you had painted the background. That's how inclusive your collage pieces are. The
Yes.
green ones. At first I thought you had painted that. So.
And I'm going to try to show you how.
And she has the
I do
words
it.
in that one as well, there's few of them.
Like I said, I like to type up, or I've got I bought a kind of damaged fairy tale book. And you cover up the other side too. And again, it's going to dry clear. It might take a long time to dry because I put it on pretty thick. But you want more glue rather than less. Parts of it might lift. And if that happens, you can go back in with a little tiny scissors or razor and just pull up the edge of it and shove some more of this glue in there. And reattach it. You don't want to leave it undealt with, though, if it starts to lift too much. There will be some wrinkles, but as you notice on this piece, it just creates texture to have those wrinkles, and so I don't fret about it. And by the time there's some oil paint on there, none of that's going to be noticeable. It's real hard to tear it once you've already got glue all over your fingers, but you can.
You need an assistant.
And I'm not going to do a perfect job here today because we're just trying to show you. I have some favorite mushrooms that I like to repeat, and they're not in here. Well, there's one. I like the red Amanita fly agaric mushroom, for example. So you pick symbols that matter to you. There's tissue papers for almost anything. If you go on a website like Zazzle, you can even make your own tissue papers. Tissue papers go on very nice because there's some transparent areas. to show the paint through from the back. Now I toned all these canvases just with like some craft paint, student grade paints, my lower quality paints that I want to use up.
It looks like an apron is a necessary thing. It's a nice apron.
Yeah, I think the apron, because I'm a particularly messy painter. I know some of you are pretty tidy. You can do this a lot more tidy than I'm doing it. And so I think
It adds to it, you know, the whole free.
this is from an American folk song music book that my friend, he was just going to throw all away these sheet music. And so this is a song that says, "The hunter stubbed his toe." It's a song about hunting buffaloes and listening to the crow call. So I've used several bits of that in different examples. And I'm going to just do this little bit and then move on. I really like to do pink cheeks, so I'll just stick roses on their cheeks. I'm inspired by Japanese art, where they give the animals little pink cheeks, things like Pikachu from Pokemon.
Oh, yes.
So where they just add that little element of whimsy. So this one is ready to set aside to dry. I'd probably, like I said, I'd probably do a lot more than this. But you know, you guys are seeing the idea.
Would you know?
That's what about that. You can either work from imagination, life, a sketch, or a photo source at that point, you know, so that's, now we're on to inks and other water media. This is very messy, okay? And usually you do this completely flat. Are people able to see this here? Okay. So I have narrowed down the colors here to go with my color story of blue, tan, and gold. So I've got inks, liquid acrylics, and in alcohol inks and acrylic inks, in only those colors. So I've got like some golds and golden ochre, and I've got some blues.
What is
And
the
browns.
age on this one gonna be?
Oh, that's a good question. I've got two crows sitting on a fence here. These are from two different photographers. They share their images in a Facebook group for painters to use. And all they ask is that when you're done, you show them what you've done. So there we go. And here's some more from that sheet music that I used in that last collage about the crows letting them know that the buffalo are near. And I've used some textured paper that came as some wrapping paper. So I think wrapping paper and a calendar. You get some interesting textures. So like I said, I usually do this flat, so this is going to be a little extra messy. And you can use spray bottles with this too. I did not remember to bring those. And usually I would also use, like I said, I'd use a spray bottle with this to spread the ink around, but we'll see what I can come up with. I got water, I got my hands.
I have a little spray bottle in my car. You
No,
know.
no, please don't say that. Okay, then I have to stop the presentation. And I'm excited, I'm having fun.
Well, you're doing great.
I often like to add little crowns onto my subjects. It's just to represent that we all have that spark of the divine of God in us.
Question.
And we,
Did you use the inks on display
Yes.
here?
yes, they're in the especially in here. Now see, we're getting a little messy here, but we'll be okay.
So the crowns, you said it are for spiritual?
Yeah, they show that we all have, you know, a kind of a connection to the divine. If I did like some spraying on here, you start to see the cool things that happen
Oh, look at that blue and yellow there.
and how it spreads. And I've got a drop cloth here, so nobody worry about the church's property here. I've been as careful as I can be. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of the alcohol ink will interact with the acrylic to make these little cells and different patterns. And that might not be easy to show today because I forgot to bring a paintbrush, but you can use them. They interact in really interesting ways. So we're looking for some of this kind of random.
Kind of like when you do paint pouring, that kind of?
Yes,
thing?
like
Okay.
paint pouring.
All right.
So we're kind of looking to create some randomness, some you know, and then you work from it. And you can, you know, if I had a paintbrush, I would usually do this with a paintbrush. But
They charge and mingle together as well.
yes, and so we start to see how the alcohol ink is interacting. And so then we've got all sorts of beautiful, and people, you know, these things will be partially covered up like you see in the final. Now this I do need to leave on the drop cloth to dry.
My gosh, I didn't even know you had alcohol inks underneath, you know, so many layers of different media.
And you can get really kind of out of control. That's why I stick to a color story. So that I'm not gonna lose my. And it, you know, sometimes I start. Oh, it's gonna lose some of that text. I got good text I had. Then I'll go back in and wipe it off. Usually I would use a paintbrush, but you know, we're using my hands today. You have to forget something when you're doing a demo like this, and you need so many supplies.
Right.
Okay. I know, it's like, what is she gonna do next?
Can't wait to
You
see.
have got such a system set
Yeah.
up here,
Amazing.
so it is.
I'll turn around in a sec for you, Barb, sorry. I'm gonna get back in position, so. Are you gonna be okay with me here? Okay, good. Yeah, it's just I'm trying to protect the church here. I am not this tidy at all, I tell you. Okay, is everything visible? Okay. So here I've got a different color story. These are gonna be these two kitties with their little crowns on them. And I've taken pages from a fairy tale about Puss in Boots. And I've kind of put it in here.
Could you
And-
move those spray cans?
Some other kind of fantasy
Could you move
pages.
the spray cans?
No. Okay, so the goal here today is now spray paint. Now, how can you do spray paint inside, you guys? Does anybody know? There are water-based spray paints. So you have to look very carefully for these, but Pinty Plus Aqua, Liquitex has a water-based, but look very close because they do all kinds. And Sugar and Montana are all brands that do this. It's in the back of your handout, the names of those brands, so you will be able to look online. And here I have a stencil of a bouquet. And let's see, is that over the cat's head? No, okay. So I can get a little bouquet pattern. If I was a little more careful with my paint, I could have done an even better job on that. But, and then I've got like a yellow, See this cat over here is a yellow cat, orange cat.
Well, that's why I like acrylic.
Really fast, really fast. This Pinty Plus brand, as you can smell, it smells like lighter than hairspray. It's not a big deal. And this one's a little stronger, so we'll just use a little bit of it. It's still water-based, but we have a nice big area here. And I'm just gonna get some gold on there. And move this little stencil to another spot. Kind of blend the edges a little. Over. Which is a good spot to stick it, maybe right there. It's gonna be a little bit harder to use it over there, but that's okay. We'll blend the edges a little bit here.
Yes, you're sparking ideas in people, Sarah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And you could even just add one of these techniques, you know. So this case, since I don't have it taped down real carefully, I'm gonna hold it down. Okay, now, while we're here with the stencils out, we're gonna do one other thing. Also, I think courtesy of Carl, we've got flexible modeling paste. Now you can use this with the stencils to create this effect I have here. Where you have the raised portion of these constellations. So I have several packs of constellation zodiac stencils, different brands, because stars, as Sara Star, are one of my major symbols. So I can take just an old palette knife or even that bowl scraper. It's called a catalyst tool, but if you call it a catalyst tool, as an art tool, it costs like $15 to $20. If you call it a bowl scraper, you can get 3 for $10.
What's your sign, Sarah?
I'm a Taurus. But I've used Leo in here, as you can guess, for these royal cats. So I can just spread this on here, and you can really smooth it out, but I'm probably not going to get it as smooth as I usually would today. But you can get, this is a hard position for my tall self. You can get some cool textures using the stencil. And the thing, you want to get this washed off right away. I've got a bucket of water here. You probably would actually wait for the spray paint to dry, but you know. Not today. This will dry white, kind of a chalky white. It's not going to dry clear. You can use the gloss gel, but it's a lot trickier to use it.
Wow.
Now that could be a little prettier even if I took the time to smooth it out, and laid it flat.
So then do you paint over that?
Once it's dry. Now look, I blocked in my cat. I don't want this over my cat's eye. So that's fine. I had it, that's why I did that, right? So I'm glad I made that mistake because I can show you that, there we go, he's safe. Okay, so this has all the layers on it. This has collage and inks. Now it has the spray paint and the texture. I could keep going back and forth at this point. And what I haven't brought here today, because I think everyone's already familiar with them, is crayons and pens and paint pens and things, markers of different kinds. And you can do those at any stage as well. And you probably want to spray fix them, either with this type of spray fix, or you can have an aerosol one. Do it outside or by a open window. There's going to be one more thing. I just have to think about. Oh, I'll put this back. tape this onto the easel to be extra safe. So I had a photo of these seals that I found online, and make sure it's real secure in place so that my tracing isn't going to move a lot. So you can see well, maybe you can kind of see I blocked them in before, but it's not exactly where they are, but it was close enough that I didn't end up having anything important covered up. Come on. Cooperate. Okay. I'm gonna use a little more tape to make sure this really cooperates. Now, there's a lot of options on how to do this if you aren't quite ready to invest. Where did I put the charcoal? Oh, right there. You can make your own transfer paper by rubbing charcoal on the back of your drawing, on typing paper, any kind of computer paper, something thin, not your thick watercolor papers, but you can do that. And then you didn't have to invest it all in anything, because most of us have some fine charcoal. Or you can get this really nice paper that engineers used in the old days called Sara. I highly prefer this to the stuff you get from Mona Lisa brand because there's no wax in it. The wax resists the multimedia techniques and even some of the oil paint. And so then you have your lines, you can never really get rid of them. There's also waxing pencil leads in the graphite in pencils. So if I drew this on with a pencil instead of, say, a watercolor pencil, like I did here, I'm gonna run into that same problem. This has no wax on it. Christian, do you have a question?
Yeah, is that called the Mona Lisa wax?
This is called Sara.
Okay,
It's on the last page of the handout.
okay.
Kind of buried in there, but I had a real nice combo with my
That's a really
besties,
cool paper.
including Barbara, and she said, you guys are really gonna wanna know where to get these supplies. So, and it's also tracing paper. This is just tracing paper. I laid this over a photocopy of a photo that I had enlarged to size. This is all tracing. I can draw, but I know a lot of you. Okay, where did the pen go? That was
Is
the.
it right there in front?
That's cardboard.
Does somebody have like a ballpoint pen I can use?
Sure.
Right here, Sarah.
Okay, great, thank you. Ballpoint is the best because it's got a firm, hard. You can also use a stylus or a pencil, but this pressure works on this paper to transfer your image over. And you can go as detailed as you want. I don't generally do a lot of detail because I want the freedom when I'm painting. And I don't want to be afraid that I'm going to cover up my drawing. You can get really precious about your drawing and not take the risks you need to take. So I'm gonna go as fast as I can here.
I love that nose, it's a heart on that one seal, the heart nose.
One trick is to kind of draw straighter lines like that instead of rounded. It'll look more realistic and less cartoonish.
Yeah, true.
So I'm trying to use mostly straight lines. And when this comes off, it's not gonna actually look like a beautiful drawing. And if I wanted to sell a drawing, I'd make a drawing, a beautiful one, but this is just so I know where to put the paint and the values. I did even less on her. I used a projector and I just took brown paint, dark brown paint, and I just went like this. Got her hair, made a sunglasses shape for where her eyes were gonna go, a Z shape, and for her mouth, and around the chin. The shadow area was one big triangle, and then her hand kind of blocked in like some squares. Because I wanted it to be more painterly. and look more effortless. But you can do exactly opposite of what I'm doing, and you can trace the photo in great detail. You can put it on paper like this, or you can even use, what's it called, Mylar, Carl? You can get a sheet of Mylar. It's clear plastic, and you can put it over your photograph, which you've printed to size of at a photo developer like Walgreens, you know, look for a 50% off coupon, or wait till holiday and they're gonna have a sale, and have it printed, and then you can trace it in great detail on that Mylar, and then trace it again on this tracing paper like I've done here. And you can go in great detail. And that might be better for some folks who, especially if you do a real realistic style. One thing that's nice is to use a red ballpoint pen so you can see where you've already drawn. But we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way today.
You're almost done, aren't you?
Well, and I didn't do it as nice as I would do if I was Carl, or trying to do a real detailed painting, which I sometimes do. And you can see it's on there. It's not perfect, and I probably, especially because I had the old drawing on there, but here's his eyes and his little nose, and here's his new eye versus his old eye and his nose. So I was pretty close for the blocking. Now, I didn't do the best job on this, so I'm gonna keep this taped on here.
I think the lady's behind you, but.
Yeah, we can't see
And,
her.
okay, I will,
Yeah, move it up.
oh yeah, so you can see where you can see I've got, see, this head was way off, here's the new head, and this one was pretty close. But it was enough that I didn't cover up any important details with the collage. And I put these stars, I wanted these stars to be between his eyes, but actually, here's between his eyes, it's way up here. So I might come back in and put another star in. Because I like to show the star as kind of the seat of your spiritual
Your third eye.
your spiritual mind.
Well, and it's your signature, right?
Yeah, I've got quite a few signature things I do. So I think there's nice detail. I think this is top. This one, I'm pretty proud of this one.
That's really beautiful, Sarah.
And so I used some of stencils with the ink afterwards. You see how you can do it in different order? So the ink afterwards is sunk into parts of the stencil. And then old letters or journal entries. I found this in an antique I ended up with, and it was a letter about, it was so sweet. It was a letter from a mother to her daughter when she was pregnant with her granddaughter. And so, and I happen to know the family, so it's extra special to me that it's in this loving picture of the two seals. I've got a mixture of all kinds of things in here. I'm pretty literal with my collage, so I use like pictures of water to be water, but you can be a lot, and like rosy cheeks, I put roses, but you can be more free thinking than me about it. It's all down to your style. Some people make their own collage papers by just painting and coloring on paper, and then they don't have to worry at all about if they're using someone else's things, or it's all them. I just save everything. This was just like a wrapping for a something I bought online. These are from a catalog that sells swimsuits, so there's a lot of water in it. And then I like to have some kind of funny text in here, like this says summer collection. Lots of wrappings and more fairy tales. So then I hope you can kind of imagine that I would paint the seals in, like I've done the woman there. And all of these will continue going through to the next layer to this point before I start painting.
Sarah? Some of them back to show us when they're done.
They might.
That's just what I was gonna ask, if you would bring some of these back and do another demonstration for us of the completed painting.
Well, they'll probably make their way into the critique.
So the next layer would be acrylics?
Yeah, so I'll just use my acrylic paints and start painting the figures.
So when do you use your Spectrafix between layers for collage?
The Spectrafix is just to fix the when I use dry powdery media. So this might be a good time to use the Spectrafix because I used this powdery charcoal paper. So this is probably a good time to use it.
And it just sets it?
Yes. Yes, it sets it. You don't want to use too much or it'll start dripping.
Do you use pastels?
You can use pastels and you can set them with this as well. Just make sure that if you're going to use oil pastels, you'll want to use them later in the process when you're, not when you're going to still be using water media. And you'll want to fix them with a very special fixative made for oil pastels. And that thing stinks. So I use it outside. It's very toxic. And then one little thing I didn't mention, but in passing, your caps, if you use a lot of spray paint, your caps can get clogged. And this is called a cap cleaner. It's a solvent, and it's a little bit, it's a solvent, so you probably either use it outside or use it in very small amounts. What my teacher does is she, so here, let's say this is the cap that came with it, but we'll take that off. Let's say this cap might be getting clogged if I don't do this, especially if you're working a dry climate. Then I would go like that just to clear out the.
Oh, that's great.
Now I'm sure you can all smell that. So
I
don't.
need that one.
But this would be very useful if you use spray paint. And then you just switch the caps and put them back on. You can also buy the caps separately, and they have different effects. But I haven't gone that far into spray paint. Let me see if I have any closing words in my handout that I forgot about. Oh, so these are my closing words. This is very, very sad, and a lot of people do this. They've got all this beautiful mixed media, and they just cover it all up with their realism. There's none of it left showing, because they just can't control themselves. They're used to painting that way. It happens to almost everybody. They're used to painting that way. So here's my tips. Try to preserve as much of your mixed media as you can. Step away often. I play records in my studio, and so every time that side A is over, I gotta pop up and go over and switch it to side B. And that's what a side of a record, 15 minutes. And so I'm up, and then my record player's way over there. So I got a nice long view of my picture, and I can go, oh, that's good, I can stop there. Use colored paper or painter's tape or washi tape. Washi tape comes in lots of different colors. I think it's spelled in here, so you'll be able to find it. I got a package of just about every color of washi tape. So you can put that on your painting to cover up sections without painting first. And see, do I want to cover this up with this color? And step away, because obviously tape doesn't look like paint. But step away from a distance and go, yeah, I do need to get rid of that area, or no, I'm going to keep it. Use transparent colors mostly. It's going to say on most of your paints, especially if they're artist grade or student grade, not craft grade, but like artist and student grade paints will say on them whether they're transparent or not. Use only transparent paints initially, and then only bring in the opaque paints, which means you can't see through them, after you've done most of your work. That way more of your colors are going to show through. For example, you can still see a little bit of this mushroom here, down here and in here, and the star overlaps into her. I didn't do as much of that effect on this painting, but you've seen my paintings where I have, where a lot of the pictures, a lot of it's still showing in the figure, like, anyways. And then, again, like less is more.
Always.
You can keep, especially, with this mixed media, you can keep on coming back. And then when I get done, when I'm at this stage and I do want to do oils, I put a layer in between that's going to receive the oil well, so it's not going to be soaking into my paper and stuff. So I suggest a clear gesso if you like thick brush strokes. It's very toothy, and so it'll grab your brush strokes. And you can just use it no matter what. Or if you want like a really smooth effect, you can use a gel medium and mix an alkyd medium with your oil paint at the appropriate percentage and using transparent paints. I think it's 25% of the medium. Use transparent paints, and that will move very smoothly over that gel medium. Don't do it using traditional techniques, not using an alkyd, because that smoothness and your oil paints can lead to some cracking and scaling. But the alkyd, so for example, Galkyd or liquid, there is a risk of those yellowing, but again, a lot of these practices are not completely compatible with archivalness, so you got to take that into account.
Do you do you spray those or varnish those at the end? Or?
When I'm all done with if I was going to leave it here, I have sprayed this with a matte varnish, because I do plan to do, because I was bringing it here today, and I do plan to do oils over this. If I was not going to do oils, I would use a satin acrylic varnish, and if I oil paint, I wait till it's bone dry and I use a varnish.
Is that because that oil, when it dries, will look dull on top of the satin? If you use satin to finish it, and then you added something, it would it would make that dull then in the areas that you painted on top of the satin.
I'm listening to you. So when it comes to oil paints, the reason that people often use a varnish is that to protect it and to make the sheen even. Earth-based oil paints, earth-based meaning it's made of dirt or iron or something, will dry flatter because they literally have elements in them that suck the oil in, and they look a little flat, and that's called sunk in. You know, Louisa could speak to this more, but there's multiple techniques for oiling out.
Yes.
Some people are for it, some are against it. I research it. I've got my favorite. Everyone's got their favorite way to do it. If you're curious, if you've ever done an oil painting and you're like, ick, this burnt umber area just looks flat next to this beautiful shiny alizarin crimson area, then you might research oiling out.
Yes.
But also certain varnishes will even that out.
Sarah?
More
Sarah,
questions?
when you do the, when you're gonna do the oils on top, are you gonna be doing it as a glaze, or is it gonna be a primary piece of the art?
I just had I had a wonderful critique this morning with my teacher who taught me this technique. So I'm so glad you asked that, because I just learned today.
Oh, good.
So I was very nervous about it. She encouraged me to glaze only the areas I want to be dark, and that I can come in on here and do a limited amount of glazing, and then I might just mix the same colors here and use oil paint, opaque oil paints for those. She also said I could leave areas without putting any oil paint on them, but I'm nervous about that because I want it to have oil all over it. But I will primarily, I'd say, the only areas I'll be using opaque are where it's very bright in the picture, and everything else will be very thin transparents to the maximum thinness that's allowed, which is like 25% transparent oil color, and 75% transparent oil color and 25% Galkyd mediums. And you guys will see this one, I'm sure, probably next month finished.
Can't wait to, it's gorgeous.
Any other questions? Yes, Christian.
How long does oil paints take to dry or something? Because I've actually heard that it's like, I think it's like 8 to 12 months or give or take or something like that for the oil paints.
It can take that long.
Because I found out that the rule of thumb, you gotta wait 8 to 12 months to dry, because I know that, is there some other paints that dry faster than oil paints, or are they just?
Yeah, that's why I use the Galkyd mediums.
Okay.
Those will dry in a few weeks.
Yeah, because most oil paints would take a long time to dry, and I don't know if there's any other oil paints that might take faster or.
Yeah, the Galkyd
That's
mediums,
what I'm wondering.
you can also buy fast dry white, so that you usually end up mixing white with almost everything in your painting. Certain colors take longer to dry than others. The earth-based ones dry crazy fast. I usually do my underpainting with a mix of an iron-based and an earth-based.
I actually used to paint with acrylics and watercolor, because acrylics I used to paint with acrylics, you know that, and acrylics take like 15-20 minutes to dry, and I use watercolors. Watercolors dry really fast.
It all depends on the weather, man. This winter, I was thinking, I'm into watercolor. I love it. I love watercolor. And I'll have this painting. I had a painting done in 4 hours for somebody, and I'm like, I can do it again.
But
Not in the winter, man. That paint, I would have to wait 40 minutes between layers, whereas in the summer, I waited 5. So yeah, I mean, that's the same with oils. If you live in, say, England or Canada, you probably are really looking at those 12 months. Around here, it's gonna depend.
But you have to remember, white or your light colors always dry slower than
Yeah.
your dark colors.
But when I paint with watercolors, all I do is just sit in my room and I leave it there all night long. It dries there, and I noticed that watercolors and acrylics don't stretch.
No, but
So I'm gonna
oils
let
have
these,
Yeah, because
I'm gonna let these continue to dry for while we do the critique and everyone. Is everyone done with questions? Yes. So I suggest we turn our chairs around.